I'm here all the way from Stockholm. This is me and my wife a couple of weeks ago walking the dog. By a raise of hand, who's been to Sweden? All right, quite a few of you. I hope you were there on summer. I've heard it's the best day of the year. So anyway, this is interesting because Sweden is not only a very cold place to live, but for the purpose of this presentation, it's actually an innovation hub. So it's, according to Bloomberg, it's the second most innovative country in the world. So a lot of unicorns are based in Stockholm. It's a thriving environment for technology, for innovation. And you don't have to worry because the US is almost on the list. You get there. What's all the buzz about? We believe that we've heard in the speeches, Nolan yesterday and previous speakers today, about how technology and restaurants, those are two words that up till now have been kind of two separate verticals, but we project that those will merge. There will not be one without the other. I'm sure you're all familiar with these slides. This is what's been happening, but it's going to continue happening over the next few years. So the restaurant industry will need to rely significantly on technology to be able to continue thriving. So I'm part of a company called Livit. We're one of the world's largest restaurant design company. We're in 43 countries by now. And that allows us to get a lot of insights. I personally take over 300 planes a year, travel the world. We are exposed to innovation in a number of markets. We see what other brands are doing, because what we design today is actually intended to be relevant 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So having the ability of looking into the future is a very big part of what we do. We work with most of the brands out there. I'm glad to see some familiar faces in the audience. We've been doing this for almost 20 years, and we've designed over 13,000 restaurants. So we should have learned a thing or two by now. And what I'm trying to do is I'll be looking to explain what's under the surface. So a lot of our customers come to us for the restaurant design. And the design and the guest experience is actually just the top of the iceberg. Really, what is more relevant and interesting is what's under the surface. You know, we have over the years developed strategic consulting, we know operations, we have our own kitchen design teams in-house. So developing everything that's under the surface is really what's going to impact the top. But today I'm going to talk to you about our tech vertical. We're a strange animal. You know, we're a design company, but we have 22 coders on staff permanently developing innovative tech solutions for the restaurant industry. So over the years, we came up with these cool ideas. And we went to our clients and said, hey, we've had this cool idea that you should implement in your restaurant. They say, oh, that's really innovative. You know, who's done it before? And we said, no one's done it before. That's what's innovation. I'm not sure. I would like someone else to try it first. So 16 months ago, we decided, okay, let's be disruptive and let's put a couple of $1 million on the table and let's create our own restaurant where we can actually test anything and everything we have learned over the last 20 years. So we set a brief and let's say, okay, what is the ideal throughput? We want to have a restaurant where we could have a transaction every 30 seconds. We want to have a restaurant where we can have a capacity of 1,000 orders per day. We also want to have short ticket times, 4 minutes and under, from the moment you order your food to the moment you get your food. But we also wanted to have a culinary edge. So we reached out to 3 different Michelin star chefs to do the recipes. And by the way, it's pizza. We also focused a lot on the experience. That's what we do, that's what we design. How can we create a lifestyle brand and an immersive experience within this category? So we said, let's take this operational efficiency and put that into a fine dining environment. No one's done that before, and see what happens. At the same time, we have this Michelin star food in a fine dining environment. We wanted to be able to serve it for $10. Our average guest check is $16.50. But we also thought about people. Is there a way we can design equipment and operations and a line to allow us to hire only people with no restaurant background or experience? And then the last point was the fit out. We wanted to make sure that it was consistent, so we set up a task that we should be able to build the restaurant in another country, put it in a container, and mount it on site in under 20 days. So it's kind of a Santa Claus wish list of the ideal. And you know, yes, Santa, he lives in Sweden, so it was kind of close. Anyway, we made it. We opened 10 months ago, and this is what it looks like. These are actually pictures, they're not renderings. So we used high-end materials, marble tables, velvet furniture, very high-end lighting. We brought in some graffiti artists. They just done the Miami Dolphins Stadium. So it felt like a fine dining restaurant. But at the same time, we wanted to hit all the other objectives that we had. So we created a line. It's fast, it's efficient. We are doing a transaction every 30 seconds. We're actually, with ticket times under 4 minutes, we're in a 3.5-minute ticket time from the moment you order your food to you have already paid and get your food. With Michelin star chefs backing it. We developed our own oven, so it's completely automated. No one needs to manage it, so any one of us could be deployed here and do the food on day one. So we were hitting a lot of our objectives in the exercise. But that guest experience part was only the tip of the iceberg. This is what our consumers are seeing. This is what they feel. This is their experience. But what we really were interested in is about the technologies that lie behind. So we said, we're going to measure everything. So we packed the restaurant with Wi-Fi access points. We have Bluetooth beacons throughout. We have geofencing around. We do heat mapping. We understand how our guests move around the restaurant. We know how they sit. We have RFID tags on our product. We have temperature sensors in our cooling and freezing chambers. We have light sensors both in the restaurant and outside of the restaurant. We control scent intensity. We even developed our own point of sale system. We developed our own KDS system. So all these things allow us to understand customer behavior. What customers see is a nice restaurant, affordable price, fast, efficient, in a nice environment, but we keep gathering data. So we call this business intelligence by AI, and it's all about what are the things we input. So having the data from point of sale, we actually also measure every 15 seconds, we measure how many guests we have live in store. And we do that through measuring telephones. You don't have to connect to our Wi-Fi, you don't have to have Bluetooth on, we know your phone is there. It's a bit scary, sorry for that. We know the average party size, we have weather data in real time, per location, we have calendar events. And calendar events is not only every Friday is a Friday or every payday is a payday. There's also non-repeating event. There's a cruise ship coming into town with American tourists. There is a Justin Timberlake concert in town. We have guest recognition. We have traffic patterns. We know our takeout orders. We understand geofencing. We get all the data from third-party delivery. I think it's a challenge many of you have also. We scrap that data, so we know every time our orders come in, where do they come in, what do they order, from where. We match that with credit card data, and we plug it into our CRM. So basically, it's a long list of data inputs. And I'm sure quite a few of you already are gathering a lot of data. But that's not enough. It's really about what do we do with it. And hopefully I'll be able to share some actionable insights of the learnings we've had with this experiment. We've done 1.8 million transactions and over 2,100 customer surveys. We do surveys every day, at least once. We test everything we do to see what works and what doesn't work. But more than that, we really want to understand what are the triggers that change consumer behavior. And when we talk about consumer behavior, it's literally about two different buckets. So we could either impact top-line sales. What are the things that drive traffic? What are the things that drive emotional connections? What are the things that improve the experience of the guest? Or the second bucket, what are the things that improve operations? That reduce cost of labor, that reduce cost of product, that make the operations more efficient. I'm going to go through different actionable insights. We have tons of them. We've learned so much. And those are all the things that we can then apply to our clients without them wanting to be guinea pigs. We're doing it in-house, knowing what works, knowing what doesn't work, and then we can apply that to our designs. So a few of the insights. We worked with a small burger company. Their logo is a golden arch. I don't know if you're familiar with them. We took a few of the restaurants and then another set of benchmarked restaurants. And we played different behavior-based playlists. Anyone familiar with Spotify? Raise of hands. Okay, most of you. So Spotify is our partner through their B2B solution called Soundtrack Your Brand. If you ever come to Sweden and visit Spotify, our restaurant is their showroom where they test the future of music in restaurants. So we played across this burger locations, we tested 3 different music types, actually 4. So first to the left, we played non-brand fit music. And that's not bad music. It's just music. We took Spotify 1000, so music that you listen on the radio, in the car, music that people listen to, but that doesn't have any fit with the brand. Then we did no music. What happens to your sales when you have no music? Can you imagine this 8 stores without music? It wasn't easy to convince them. But then we did some interesting things. We took 50% of the Spotify Top 1000, and then we mixed it with 50% music that is brand fit, that feels relevant to the brand's personality and to the brand's values, and play that. But it was still familiar music. To the right, what we did is the same exercise, but we took only music that was non-familiar. So for us that have gray hair and have experienced singles, think of A-sides versus B-sides of the same artist. And what we were able to measure is that the increase in sales between having just regular popular music and having brand fit music was 9.1%. Extremely interesting. And not only that, when we started digging deeper into this, we found out that what really changed the consumer behavior was the music. When it's not familiar, you stay longer in the restaurant. And when you stay longer in the restaurant, you purchase high-margin products. So the Sundays of the menu were 15% up. So then we've been able to test this into more location and add another layer, and it's dynamic volume control. So most of you, if you have a music system that is programmable, you say, okay, for lunch, I'm going to play this music at this volume, because that's the kind of energy I want. For dinner, I want to play at 38 decibels, this kind of music. But of course, lunch starts at 11 a.m. when you open your doors with one guest. And you're still playing the same energy and the same volume for the restaurant with one guest and the restaurant when it's full with 200 people. So what we're now doing is that we added a layer of dynamic control. So we're combining data from how many phones we have in the store with the data from our music playlist. And now we're able to play and have the exact same energy level regardless of if you have 1 guest in your store or 300 guests in store. The third part that we did is when we were able to understand behaviors based on familiarity of music, we can drive behavior. So what we are now doing is on peak hours, we play higher RPM, higher volume, and higher energy, and therefore increase throughput. On your lunch, that's what you want. You want 3 table turns. So we're using this data to increase traffic. But on non-peak hours, we completely change it around because we want our guests to stay. We want the restaurant to be full. We want them to linger, grab a coffee, have another dessert. So using data to have actionable insights is what it's all about. The next thing we played with is scent. How many have artificial scent in your restaurants? You're kidding me. No one? All right. Across the world, most restaurants are installing scent because even if you're a wood fire grill, the scent you get from your wood fire grill is not what you want to have in your restaurant. It's greasy, it smells. So now we are able to develop artificial scents. And not only develop them, IHOP International, we had maple syrup blowing out of the malls of Middle East, for example. Drove sales. What we're doing here is that we're trying to understand how does that impact the consumer behavior. What we did is we played with 2 different scents. One was premium and luxury. Guests loved that. And it was warm and it was cozy. We sell salads and pizzas, and we did that on purpose. So that increases our pizza sales. But what we do is, what would happen if we change that warm scent to fresh basil? Our salad sales went up 13 points overnight. So what we're now able to do is we change consumers' behaviors with scent to drive sales and PMIX. So on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays, when we know that consumers are not into pizza, because you've had a lot on the barbecue on the Sunday and the Super Bowl, we can drive salad sales and then turn that. So on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have more pizza sales. The next thing we do is real-time light scene control. So I'm sure you're familiar with the feeling of, it's sunny outside, you walk into the restaurant, it's dark. It kind of takes a second. Or the contrary. It's really dark outside and you walk in, it's really bright. So what we're actually doing is that we're now monitoring and censoring the daylight outside of the restaurant and then running through an algorithm with how many guests we have in the store, and then control the light levels within the store in real time. So you always get the ideal scenario for your guests. Talk about experience. We could also do, I mentioned the example with the cruise ships. That is a real example. So Stockholm is a harbor where twice a week, 2 cruise ships of 5,000 guests come into their harbor, mostly Americans, to go and see the fjords. And they have a specific pattern. We're understanding their patterns, what they eat, when they eat, at what times. And that allows us to automatically, our AI module creates automatic marketing systems so we could target those customers where they are at the time we want. Regardless if it's a cruise ship, it's a concert, whatever that is, we can not only do that for event-based, but also location-based. So knowing where our customers come from, where they order, when they order, we're able to identify pockets of different promotions. So we're getting closer and closer to individual marketing for the individual consumer. Of course, we have seamless payments. You can walk into a restaurant. You don't have to pick up your phone. We know who you are, what's your favorites. We know your name. We can greet you. You go to the cashier. You don't have to pick up your phone. We ask if you want pay by your account. You do that, no phones up, completely frictionless and seamless. We could also have automated table management. And this is a very interesting insight that we have over the years that really drives performance in restaurants. So often when we analyze restaurants and we do heat mapping, and we've done this with a couple of casual dining, very big chains here in the US, you might have a line out the door, or you might have a wait, but still you have 24 tops with only 2 parties of 2 in. So you're leaving money out of the door because you're not optimized for your setup. So what we did in our test restaurant, you can see it here, there's a number of 2 tops within the layout. Every afternoon and every morning, the general manager in his phone gets a layout of the restaurant set up by the AI and machine learning platform on how the restaurant should be optimized for performance. So he can easily set up for lunch, 40% 2 tops, 60% 4 tops, whatever that is. Same happens for dinner. So we maximize throughput, making sure that in a high-capacity restaurant, in a peak hour, you get the most bang out of your real estate. We also have predictive staffing and scheduling. Once again, improving the operation and the ROI. So what we do is we assign to each team member a set of skills. So I could be really good at the oven, but I'm a disaster at the point of sale. On peak hour, you want to have me. On peak hour, you want aces in their places. Everyone should be the best in the best position. So the AI module does predictive staffing, knowing that tomorrow it's Friday, it's raining, it was 3 days since payday, and there's a concert in town. These are going to be your sales. Therefore, this is how you should staff. But on the contrary, on non-peak hours, what you want is flexible labor force. You want something that is not an A on the oven, but maybe it's a B on 5 stations. So that's how the system could actually program and staff through predictions without actually knowing names of team members. AI-driven inventory and sourcing. We really wanted to get deeper into waste of product, inventory management. So once again, what the system can do is says, okay, tomorrow it's Friday, there's a Super Bowl game, you're going to sell 400 cans of this beer. But through RFID tags, we know exactly how many beers you have on stock. And we know that 3 or 4 days in advance. So the manager does not have to go through the whole inventory and think that I need to remember to put an order to get more beers for Friday. The system does this automatically. We've done a pioneer test with Carlsberg, where our system automatically sends the orders for beverages to be delivered on store based on the predictions. So you're optimizing your inventory, you're optimizing your storage capacity. So this is a store that is 2,900 square feet, and we have 145 seats. Thanks to things like this, where we can save on real estate. We have geofenced order marketing. So when you order food through our app, it only takes 3 minutes to cook. So why should we trigger it? You're able to say, hey, I'm going to pick up my food in 15 minutes, which that's fine. But right when you're going to walk out of your office, your boss calls you. And there's an urgent call. You're going to be 5 minutes late. So what we actually do is that we do not put the food into the oven until you're 3.5 minutes away from the store. So as you walk into the store, your food is smoking hot, and you can just grab it and leave. You don't have to talk to anyone. I'm sure some of you are familiar with these images. The tablet nightmare. One of the first things we did is, all right, we studied the impact that this have in your restaurant. We all want to do delivery. That's great. But we measured that on average, on the restaurant we studied it, this is costing you $400 a month. Because you need to have one team member aware of the incoming orders, the bling, bling, ring, ring, ring that happens, and manually put them into your POS system. Not only that distracts them, but it takes time to punch the order into the POS system, but it also becomes human error. And you don't find out that error until the order has reached the customer. And he calls you. And I said, I ordered 3 pizzas, and there's only 2. And you need to send a voucher, and you need to reach out to them and spend a lot of time. So what we did is all 5 different delivery players, and they're all the big guys, we funnel them directly into the POS and into the KDS. So no one has to think of the orders coming in. They come in directly into the KDS ordering system. With the data we are actually getting from all the third-party delivery, we know where do they order, when they order, and what they order. And that allows us to plan on where should we open the next store. We can identify what are the hotspots for our concept, and that allows us to have a development strategy based on data. So these are just a few of the things we've learned. I wanted to share them with you. I think they're relevant. They're all going to be part of our day-to-day. They are available today. So this is not the future. This is today. We have a ton of things that we're looking into the future. I will save that for next conference. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that we have a great experience. How many of you are familiar with NPS, Net Promoter Score? All right. So for those of you who don't know it, it's a way of measuring guest satisfaction, because what it measures is likelihood to recommend. So we run, you can see some of your brands are actually in the list. And to the far right, we did not beat Chick-fil-A, but almost. So not only do we get the insights, do we get the data, do we get the intelligence, but we are able to have a great experience. Then a lot of our clients, and when I'm out speaking, they say, why AI? You know, this seems pretty simple, right? If, then what? If you have 1 guest, then you put this volume. If you have 10 guests, then you put... So most people say, what do you do an if, then what system? And then I try to explain that every input that you have on the left is not directly correlated, but it looks like this. So not until today, where we have the computing power of algorithms and machine learning, we're able to mix all these events and understand layering and what really drives performance and guest experience. So the big question when we've been developing this was always integration. Anyone knows what this picture is? Rosetta Stone, absolutely right. So the Rosetta Stone was written 200 years before Christ, and it was found in 1799 in Egypt. And basically, it's the same text written in 3 different languages. And what allowed us is to understand, through Greek, how the Egyptian hieroglyphs were. And thanks to this stone, we can understand another language. So what we did is, let's create the Rosetta Stone. Because when you reach out to Micros or Aloha or putting a few names out there, and say, hey, I have this cool, innovative idea. I have data. I want to integrate, and I want to make sure that I can talk to you. The answer is always the same. Sorry, it's not in our roadmap. What's in it for us? So to solve that, what we did is we created a pull API where we can pull all the data regardless of who it is, regardless of what POS we're using, regardless of what weather data we're using, regardless of what third-party delivery company we're using, we are able to understand that language, bring it into our data mining platform, normalize it, structure it. Then we've created a dashboard where we have our reports, where we can have our objectives, when we get our business intelligence, and we put in our calendar events. But at the same time, we did the reverse engineered equation. So we are then able to talk to whatever music system you have, whatever lighting control you have, whatever send control you have, whatever scheduling tool you have. So really being able to create this without integration, I would say, was the biggest challenge. The intellectual we had, we just needed computing power, and we needed understanding integration. And to me, really the best thing is that this all happens invisible to the guest. There's no screens, there's no kiosk, there's no technology between the guest and the team members. Our team members, our general manager, they can focus on the guest. They can focus on delivering a guest experience that is extraordinary. Thank you.
Excellent talk. We have time for a few questions here.
Excellent presentation. So the question is, where can we get it? You know, like what is it?
So I got that one before. So literally, we did this as an experiment to learn really about behavior. Right? We didn't do this to create a product, and I think that's the difference. You got a lot of kids in Silicon Valley thinking, I'm going to create this phenomenal app for the restaurant industry. And they don't know anything about restaurants. So I think we had a different approach. We're operators, we're designers. And then, okay, what would be the ideal world? You know, we wrote the list to Santa Claus. And then this happened. So what we'll have to do eventually with all the resources we put in is that we're just developed the roadmap for it. So we're going to create a beta platform. We are doing this as a hackathon. So every Monday, we start coding on something new that we test on Friday. And we do that every week, and then we read the results. In 5 months from now, we would have a ready product out in the market. And by the end of the year, we want to open a test lab here in the US as well. So that's when we will go with the whole suite of what we have today. But this, keep in mind that this is not, these are the 10 things that we want to test. These are the 10 things that we're testing now. Every day we come up with the next thing and the next thing. So the objective is not to create a product. The objective is to really learn beyond any other design company what is important, what drives sales. So a bit of a question and an answer.
So 2 questions. I was just kind of wondering how you created your branded music, and then also the scent strategy. How did that come about?
All right. So the music, the brand fit music, we actually have something we call a sound scan. And it's 2 columns of adjectives. And there's no right or wrong. You could be calm or you could be energetic as a brand. So there are 15 different layers with a post. So you would tell me, okay, my brand is on a scale from 0 to 5, energetic. My brand is rugged. My brand is airy. So we are able to understand what's the brand personality. And then what we work with Spotify is that we've cataloged all the music in the world into any of those platforms. Then you could have filters. So if you don't want expressive music or F words or yes or no, there's another set of filters. But it's really about understanding what the brand is about. And then that's already plugged into that. So these playlists are actually not only available in the restaurant. I left my phone back there, but I could open our app right now, and I could listen to the music that is playing in the store in Stockholm now. And if I push a button, I can download that playlist into my Spotify in my phone, so you could take your brand music, your brand experience out of the store to the homes of your guests. So that was on the sound part. On the scent part, there's a lot of research. I would say restaurant industry is years behind. Hotels figured this out years ago. Most hotels have their own scent, and they did it for familiarity. They wanted you to feel at home. So we work with a number of companies around the world. There's a lot of research in terms of scent, and what are the things you want to trigger. So if you're on an impulse location, you want something sweet. You want syrups, you want waffle cones. Those are the things you want. If you are a steakhouse, you want wood fire. And different types of wood trigger different behaviors. So really understanding, once again, what's the objective? Then you can pick and choose from the scent.
So I guess when you're doing so much data gathering, how long do you have to actually gather that? Because when you look at the US, I mean, we have so much diversity as far as, the climates, weather, demographics. So to me, it would seem like if you're, looking at Atlanta, you wouldn't be able to just gather information for a few months because of how all those things are changing throughout the year. So how long do you have to spend, I guess, gathering all the data before you can even go to the point of analyzing it?
So much less than we thought. We had a similar approach, but really, if you look at how things have been done in the past, it's all historic data. So you look backwards. What happened last year? What happened last month? But you don't really know. You see your sales, and why did you have a peak there? Because it was a game night, or because it was snowy, or because something happened, there was elections? You don't have the access to the data. When you are putting so many inputs, the system is smart, and it gets just smarter and smarter. And we're seeing this every day that passes. Our machine learning platform just gets more and more intelligent. So what we're able to do is point it into one direction and say, that's the objective, and then it keeps alpha beta testing constantly until it finds the right direction. The more locations you have, the faster it's going to learn.
Ben, I want to thank you so much for flying all the way here from Sweden to join us to get
Thank
this
you very
talk.
much.